1900, sponge divers. Roman shipwreck. Bronze statues. Marble art. One corroded lump. Inside, 30 bronze gears. A computer. 2,000 years old. It predicts eclipses. Tracks planets. Counts Olympic Games. We still can't fully explain it. April 1900. The Aegean Sea. A small island called Antikythera, halfway between Crete and the Greek mainland. Captain Demetrius Kondos and his crew of sponge divers are working the seabed, 60 meters down. One diver, Elias Stadiatis, surfaces. Frantic. Disoriented. He's reporting bodies. Dozens of bodies on the ocean floor. The captain goes down himself. Not bodies. Statues. A Roman shipwreck. 1st century BCE, around 60 to 50 BCE. A treasure ship, carrying bronze and marble sculptures, glassware, pottery, luxury goods. Likely bound for Rome. It sank. And for 2,000 years, it lay undisturbed. The Greek government and navy organize a recovery operation. For 10 months, divers bring up artifact after artifact. Marble statues of heroes and philosophers. Bronze sculptures of athletes. Art destined for Roman villas. One diver dies from the bends. Others are paralyzed. The work is dangerous, exhausting. But the haul is extraordinary. The National Archaeological Museum in Athens receives crate after crate of ancient treasure. And among the cargo, one corroded, unimpressive lump of bronze. For a year, it sits in storage. Bronze. Corroded. Encrusted with limestone. Merged with wood fragments. No one pays much attention. There are marble statues to restore. Bronze figures to clean. Then, in May 1902, it cracks open. Drying out. Shrinking. Inside, something no one expects. A gear. Not just a gear. A bronze gear. Precisely cut teeth. Unmistakable. And inscriptions. Greek letters. Faint, corroded, but there. Archaeologist Valerios Stais examines the fragments. He's the first to understand what he's looking at. Not a decorative object. Not an astrolabe, a known ancient astronomical tool. Something else. Something more complex. A mechanism. A machine. He dates it to the shipwreck period, 1st century BCE. Around 80 BCE, he estimates. He publishes his findings. A geared device from ancient Greece. The response? Skepticism. Dismissal. Gears that sophisticated don't exist in the ancient world. The historical record shows nothing like it. Medieval Islamic astronomers built the first known geared devices, 1,000 years later. This must be a medieval astrolabe that somehow got mixed into the ancient cargo. A later intrusion. A mistake. For decades, the Antikythera mechanism is ignored, dismissed, or relegated to a footnote. But a few researchers keep looking. 1950s, British historian Derek de Sala Price begins a systematic study. He's a historian of science. He understands ancient technology. And he believes the mechanism is genuine. He studies the fragments. Traces the gears. Attempts reconstructions. By 1959, he's identified at least 20 gears across the fragments. He proposes the device calculated astronomical positions. In 1971, he publishes a groundbreaking paper in Scientific American. He calls it an ancient Greek computer. He's right. But he's working from surface observations and basic X-rays. He can see some gears. But most are buried inside the corroded mass. He doesn't know the half of it. Because in 2005, technology catches up. 2005, a team from Cardiff University, in collaboration with the National Archaeological Museum of Athens, brings new technology to bear. Microfocus X-ray computed tomography. CT scanning, but with extraordinary resolution. They can see inside the corrosion. Through the layers. Into spaces Price could never access. And polynomial texture mapping, a technique that reveals surface details invisible to the naked eye. Inscriptions. Tiny text. Instructions. What they find stuns them. Not 20 gears. 30 gears. Maybe more, depending on how you count assemblies. Fragment A, the largest piece, contains 27 gears alone. The mechanism is far more complex than anyone imagined. And there's text. Thousands of characters. A user manual, essentially. Instructions for operating the device. Explanations of what each dial shows. For the first time, researchers can read the machine's purpose in the words of its makers. It's not just an astronomical calculator. It's a cosmos in bronze. The CT scans change everything. The mechanism has 82 surviving fragments. Most are small, corroded, barely recognizable. But the scans reveal their secrets. Fragment A is the heart, the main gear train. Fragments B, C, and D each preserve single gears that fit into the larger assembly. The device was housed in a wooden case, about the size of a shoebox. The wood has long since decayed, but traces remain. The front face displayed a complex dial, rings showing the zodiac, the Egyptian calendar, planetary positions. The back had two large spiral dials, each divided into smaller sections, with pointers tracking multiple cycles simultaneously. And covering almost every visible surface, instructions. Names of months. Eclipse predictions. Astronomical data. The mechanism didn't just calculate. It taught. A person using this device could turn a crank, yes, a hand crank, and watch the cosmos unfold. The moon's phases. The sun's position through the zodiac. The wandering planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. And more. Much more. The Metonic calendar spiral is ingenious. As you turn the crank, a pointer moves along the spiral, indicating which month you're in, which year of the 19-year cycle. But there's more. The inscriptions include excluded days, corrections. Because 19 solar years don't exactly equal 235 lunar months. There's a small error. The mechanism accounts for this. It tells the user when to skip a day to keep the calendar synchronized with reality. This is sophisticated timekeeping. Astronomical precision translated into mechanical function. And remember, this is 100 BCE. Or earlier. The ancient Greeks understood these cycles. Meton of Athens discovered the 19-year pattern in 432 BCE. Callippus refined it. But knowing a cycle and encoding it into a machine, with gears, ratios, and physical pointers, are two different things. This mechanism makes the abstract concrete. You can see time. Touch it. Predict it. The lower back dial. The Saros dial. This predicts eclipses. The Saros cycle, 223 lunar months. Approximately 18 years and 11 days. Ancient astronomers discovered that eclipses repeat in this cycle. If a lunar eclipse happens today, another one will occur 223 months from now, similar geometry, similar path. The Babylonians knew this. The Greeks inherited the knowledge. But the Antikythera mechanism doesn't just know it. It calculates it. The Saros dial is a 4-turn spiral. Each turn covers about 55 to 56 lunar months. 4 turns, 223 months. Inscriptions mark eclipse predictions. Lunar and solar. Times. Whether they're visible from a particular location. Glyphs. Index letters running alphabetically through the eclipse events. And there's more. A subsidiary dial, the exoligmos. 3 Saros cycles equal 54 years. But there's an 8-hour shift. The exoligmos dial corrects for this. It tells you to add 8 hours, or 16 hours, to adjust the eclipse timing. This is recursive calculation. The mechanism doesn't just run one cycle. It nests cycles within cycles, adjusting for errors, refining predictions. This is computational thinking in bronze. Here's where it gets beautifully human. The Saros dial has a subsidiary dial. Not astronomical. Social. The Olympiad dial. A 4-year register of Panhellenic Games. The Olympic Games at Olympia. The Isthmian Games at Corinth. The Nemean Games. The Pythian Games at Delphi. The great athletic and cultural festivals of ancient Greece, mechanically tracked alongside the cosmos. Every 4 years, the Olympic Games. Every 2 years, the Isthmian and Nemean Games alternate. Every 4 years, the Pythian Games. The mechanism knows the schedule. Think about that. You turn the crank. The front dial shows you where Venus is in the sky. The back dial tells you when the next eclipse will happen. And it also tells you when the Olympic Games begin. Cosmic time and human time, integrated in one machine. This isn't just science. It's culture. Identity. The rhythm of Greek life, embedded in bronze and astronomy. Now the front. Imagine looking at the mechanism's face. Several concentric rings. The outer ring, the zodiac. 12 constellations marking the ecliptic, the path of the sun through the year. Inside that, the Egyptian calendar. 365 days divided into 12 months of 30 days, plus 5 extra days. And then, the planets. The mechanism had outputs for the Sun, Moon, and all 5 visible planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Little spheres mounted on pointers, moving at different rates as you turned the crank, mimicking the planet's motion through the zodiac. The moon display was particularly sophisticated. It showed not just the moon's position, but its phase. A small sphere, half black and half white, rotating to show the illuminated portion. The lunar nodes, the points where the moon's orbit crosses the ecliptic, were also tracked. These are critical for eclipse prediction. The inscriptions on the back cover, the user manual, describe this front display. They call it a cosmos with rings and little spheres for the planets, and a little golden sphere for the sun. A mechanical planetarium. You could watch the heavens unfold, past or future, just by turning a handle. The CT scans revealed over 3,000 characters of text. Most are tiny, just 1.2 millimeters tall. Inscribed on the mechanism surfaces and protective covers. This is the user manual. The operating instructions. The front cover inscriptions list planetary cycles. How long each planet takes to return to the same position relative to the stars, synodic periods. Mercury, 116 days. Venus, 584 days. Mars, 780 days. Jupiter, 399 days. Saturn, 378 days. These numbers are grouped in structured sections. Technical specifications. The back cover explains the dial functions. It describes the Metonic calendar, the Saros cycle, the Olympiad register. It mentions excluded days, corrections, adjustments. And it uses terminology. Names for cycles, 76 years, the Callipic cycle, for Metonic cycles, 19 years, Metonic, 223, Saros. This isn't a mysterious artifact with unknown purpose. It's a teaching tool. A demonstration device. Maybe even a luxury item, cutting-edge technology for a wealthy patron who wanted to understand the heavens. And it came with documentation. Instructions. Context. The makers wanted people to understand it. To use it. To learn from it. So how does it work? How do you encode astronomy into gears? The key is gear ratios. If one gear has 30 teeth and drives a gear with 60 teeth, the driven gear turns at half the speed. Simple. But the planets don't move at constant speeds. They speed up and slow down. They even appear to reverse direction, retrograde motion, because we're observing from a moving Earth. The mechanism uses epicyclic gearing, gears within gears, to approximate these non-uniform motions. A small gear mounted on an arm rotates around a larger central gear. The combination produces a varying output speed, mimicking a planet's changing velocity. It's an approximation. The ancient Greeks knew planetary motion wasn't perfectly circular. But this was close enough for practical prediction. The 2021 reconstruction by researchers at University College London proposed a full frontal gear train using epicyclic assemblies to drive all 7 astronomical outputs, Sun, Moon, lunar nodes, and the 5 planets. 30 gears. Nested outputs. Compact spacing. Everything fitting within the surviving constraints of fragment A's thickness and layout. It works. Not as precise as a modern computer, but astonishingly accurate for handheld bronze built 2,000 years ago. The month names on the Metonic calendar point to origins. Corinthian calendar. Northwestern Greece. The region of Illyria, Epirus, or possibly the island of Corcyra. Or a Corinthian colony. The most famous Corinthian colony, Syracuse, in Sicily. In the 3rd century BCE, Syracuse was a center of learning. A hub of Greek science and engineering. And it was home to one of the greatest minds of the ancient world. Archimedes. Archimedes of Syracuse. 287 to 212 BCE. Mathematician, physicist, engineer, inventor. He calculated pi. Described the principle of buoyancy. Invented the Archimedes screw for raising water. He also, according to ancient writers, built mechanical devices that modeled the heavens. Cicero, the Roman orator and philosopher, wrote about Archimedes' planetarium. A bronze device that showed the motion of the sun, moon, and planets. It even replicated eclipses. Cicero claimed to have seen it. It was brought to Rome after Syracuse fell in 212 BCE, when Archimedes was killed. He describes it as a sphere that, when turned, reproduced the movements of the cosmos. Could Archimedes have built something like the Antikythera Mechanism? The dates don't quite line up. Archimedes died around 212 BCE. The mechanism style and the shipwreck date suggest 150 to 100 BCE, decades or even a century later. But could the mechanism represent a tradition, a school of thought and technique, that originated with Archimedes or his intellectual descendants? The Corinthian calendar inscriptions point to Syracuse. Cicero places Archimedes' planetarium in the historical record. We don't know for certain. But the ghost of Archimedes hovers over the Antikythera mechanism. Here's why the Antikythera mechanism feels impossible. The next known device with complexity even approaching it appears over 1,000 years later. Medieval Islamic astronomers, brilliant engineers in their own right, built astrolabes and geared calendrical calculators in the 10th, 11th, 12th centuries CE. The Byzantine sundial calendar from the 5th or 6th century CE shows some gearing, but nothing like the mechanism's sophistication. That's the gap. 1,000 years. From 100 BCE to 1000 CE, we have no surviving geared devices of comparable intricacy. Did the technology vanish? Was the Antikythera mechanism a dead end, a marvel that died with its makers? Or did such devices exist, but not survive? Bronze corrodes. Wood rots. Complex machines are valuable, they get melted down, repurposed, lost. The Antikythera mechanism only survived because it sank. Sealed in seawater and sediment, protected from the air and human hands. How many others were there? How many were lost? The ancient world was more technologically advanced than many assume. Hero of Alexandria, 1st century CE, described steam engines, automated theatrical devices, vending machines, and programmable mechanical systems. Ctesibius built water clocks with sophisticated regulator mechanisms. The Library of Alexandria held hundreds of thousands of scrolls, technical treatises, engineering manuals, scientific observations. Most of it is lost. The library burned, multiple times, over centuries. Wars, neglect, deliberate destruction. Entire fields of knowledge vanished. We know about Archimedes' planetarium only because Cicero mentioned it in passing. One offhand reference in one text that happened to survive. How much didn't survive? How many devices, techniques, insights were lost when bronze was melted for coins, when parchment was scraped and reused, when libraries burned? The Antikythera mechanism is a window. A rare glimpse into capabilities we thought didn't exist. It forces us to reconsider what the ancients could do, and what we've lost. 1976, Jacques Cousteau's ship Calypso returns to Antikythera. 76 years after the original sponge divers. New technology. Better equipment. Deeper dives. Working with the Greek Archaeological Service, Cousteau's team maps the site. Recovers more artifacts. They don't find additional mechanism fragments. But they expand our understanding of the ship, the cargo, the context. After 1976, the site is again left untouched. 4 decades. Until 2012. 2012, a new generation of archaeologists returns. Closed-circuit rebreathers. Diver propulsion vehicles. High-resolution underwater cameras. They're not just looking for artifacts. They're conducting systematic archaeology. Mapping every square meter. Documenting. Preserving. And they're finding things. Rigging hardware. Lead anchor rings. Whole fragments. Large statue pieces. Human bones. The ship is still giving up its secrets. 2021 to 2025, a coordinated program by the University of Geneva. Using robots. Exosuit technology, a sophisticated diving suit that allows extended deep operations. Precise mapping. Careful excavation. Modern science applied to an ancient wreck. They're not looking for another mechanism. Chances of finding one are vanishingly small. But they're reconstructing the ship, the cargo, the journey. Who built the mechanism? Who owned it? Where was it made? Where was it going? The shipwreck holds answers. And the work continues. March 2025. Athens. A comprehensive exhibition organized by the Ministry of Culture and the Ephorate of Underwater Antiquities. More than 80 objects from the Antikythera shipwreck. Results from the 2012 to 2024 campaigns. The mechanism fragments, of course. But also the context. The ship. The cargo. The human story. This is one of the most important archaeological sites in the Mediterranean. A time capsule from the Hellenistic world. And at its center, a machine that still astonishes us. For all we've learned, mysteries remain. We have 82 fragments. That's perhaps a third of the original device. 2/3 are missing, lost in the wreck, corroded beyond recognition, or never recovered. The front-face planetary display, we have inscriptions describing it, and gear trains that could produce it. But Fragment A doesn't preserve the complete mechanism. Reconstructions are models based on evidence and theory. Educated guesses, brilliant engineering, but still guesses. Who built it? We don't know the maker's name. Was it one person? A workshop? A tradition of craftsmen? Who owned it? The mechanism was on a ship carrying luxury goods to Rome. Was it a gift for a Roman patron? A trade item? Personal property of someone aboard? Why only one? If this technology existed, why don't we have more examples? Was the mechanism unique? Rare? Or were there others, now lost? How did they make it? The gears are precisely cut. The inscriptions are tiny. The assembly is intricate. With what tools? What techniques? We can describe what it does. We can marvel at how it works. But the human story, the who, the why, the how many, remains fragmentary. Like the device itself. Why didn't this technology spread? Why isn't the historical record filled with geared astronomical computers? Several possibilities. Cost. This mechanism required skilled craftsmen, expensive materials, astronomical knowledge, and time. It was a luxury. Only the wealthy could afford it. Demand was limited. Specialization. Building one of these requires expertise in multiple fields: metalworking, astronomy, mathematics, mechanical engineering. That combination is rare. Fragility of transmission. If the knowledge was held by a small workshop or tradition, one disaster, war, plague, economic collapse, could break the chain. Utility. For most purposes, simpler tools sufficed. Astronomers could predict eclipses with tables. Calendars existed. The mechanism was impressive, but not essential. And perhaps the mechanism itself was an endpoint. A technological dead end. Brilliant, but with no practical successors. The medieval Islamic astronomers developed their geared devices independently, 1,000 years later. They didn't inherit the mechanism's tradition. They reinvented the concept. Innovation isn't linear. Technology can be lost. Progress isn't inevitable. The Antikythera Mechanism is proof. The Antikythera Mechanism sits in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. Corroded. Fragmentary. Incomplete. But it speaks. It tells us that ancient craftsmen could build machines of staggering complexity. That Greek astronomy wasn't just theoretical, it was practical, mechanical, tangible. It tells us that the Olympic Games and the orbits of planets were part of one cosmos. That culture and science, ritual and calculation, could be unified in bronze and gears. It tells us that knowledge can be lost. That entire traditions of skill and insight can vanish, leaving only traces. And it reminds us that the past is deeper than we think. That assumptions about what ancient peoples could or couldn't do are fragile. Every so often, the earth cracks open. A tomb is found. A shipwreck yields treasure. And we're forced to rewrite what we thought we knew. The Antikythera Mechanism shouldn't exist. But it does. A computer from the age of myth. A cosmos in bronze. A reminder that genius is not a modern invention. This is Underlight Histories, where the overlooked is illuminated. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. See you next time.